houses are like, and it's all
amazing. I was just in Bedford-Stuyvesant,
And they're throwing garbage on top of it.
and it took forever. It's just getting worse.
welcome to our world.
Yeah, truly.
Can we push it to 10 o'clock?
Do you, is that something that you would want?
I would like 10 o'clock. No.
That's the issue, right? Like, I leave the buffer room in order to start between 9:30 and 10. Because I know that there's a lot of...
I have no opinion. I'll be here whenever the meeting.
You're such a good sport. All right, so let's get started. Good morning.
Morning.
This is the Borough Service Cabinet meeting. My name is Diana Reina, the Deputy Brooklyn Borough President. I'm accompanied by our Latino Outreach Coordinator and what would be a coordinator for the Borough Service Cabinet meeting with myself, Yamilke Crisostomo. We are going to go through roll call. Gerald Esposito, Community Board 1.
Marie Wallen.
Thank you, Marie. Community Board 2, Robert Paris.
Present.
Community Board 3, Henry Butler. Community Board 4, Celestina Leon. Community Board 5, Melinda Perkins. Community Board 6, Craig Hamerman. Community Board 7, Jeremy Laufer.
Here.
Thank you, Jeremy. Community Board 8, Michelle George. Community Board 9. Community Board 10, Josephine Beckman. Community Board 11, Marnie Elias Pavia. Community Board 12, Barry Spitzer.
Here.
Community Board 13, Eddie Mark.
Here.
Community Board 14, Sean Elise Campbell.
Here.
Community Board 15, Laura Singer.
Here.
Community Board 16, Viola Green Walker.
Here.
Community Board 17, Sharif Frazier. Community Board 18, Dorothy Tarano. I want to just thank everyone this morning for being here. We are going to have a presentation. This meeting was supposed to be taking place at Do It under the construction matters that they are currently dealing with. We had to push the meeting back over to Borough Hall. We hope to be hosted after the construction is completed at Do It, but we look forward to their presentation, New York City Information Technology and Telecommunications Open Data Information and Resources to Assist Community Boards. So this was our way of just trying to figure out how we can better manage our community boards, just information that flows in and out of the community boards, and how we can better partner with Do It so that they could understand some of your feedback, whatever they don't offer right now that you may need assistance in trying to express what the challenges are as district manager. So I leave it up to you.
Do I need to speak into the microphone?
Yeah.
Yes, I'm going to go.
Grab it out
Yep.
and just walk over to the monitor.
Thank you. Good morning, everyone. My name's Albert Weber, and I'm the Director of Open Data at Do It. And what I wanted to do is give you all an overview of the Open Data Portal. Over the years, I've been at Do It for about 8 years, managing open data for 7, and we've gone to a number of community boards and done trainings for open data. There's been some, I think, valuable information that the city's been releasing that I think has been of a lot of use to community boards and making decisions within the actual community board. Through, for example, a hot topic because there's a lot of information that goes down to that community level. So before I kick things off, what I wanted to actually do is go live through usage of the website to help you all, if you're ever using open data, find the data you're looking for and address any questions that you may have had. But just a quick show of hands, if you could, how many people are actually familiar with open data or have used it before? Okay, great. So what I'll do is I'll just sort of run through our actual site, go through some quick searches that may be of use for you all, and then if you have any questions, please just feel free to ask. So what we're looking at here is the city's open data portal. The easiest way to get there is to go to nyc.gov/data. And what we have on the Open Data Portal is about 1,700 data sets from about 80 entities around the city. I say entities because it's not just agencies. We also have data from business improvement districts. Sometimes data is forwarded to us because it's about New York City from an organization that we deem an official organization where that data could be helpful to New Yorkers. So I'll just sort of scroll through the site and bear with me for any anything that comes up. I find that whenever you're doing live demos, things happen at times, so just bear with me. So what we're looking at here is the actually revamped Open Data website. We redid the portal in this year in March as anniversary of the 5th year, as the 5th year anniversary of the passing of the Open Data Law in 2012, which requires the city to release all of its information. So we're hoping that it's very user-friendly. If you have any feedback for us, always through that Contact Us tab, please give us your feedback. If there's anything that we could be doing to make information that's valuable to you more present, more upfront, please let us know. So when you're scrolling through the site, to kick things off, what we try to do is to make it easier for you to understand using the site. So right here we have a number of user tracks. So if you're new to Open Data and you don't really have an idea of how to use it and what you should be doing, you can click on this tab and it sort of gives you a walkthrough or a path that you can take to understand using Open Data. For data veterans, this is usually the more Open Data advocates or the tech savvy. We have information that may be of relevance there, things like connecting the technology, using APIs to automatically grab data on a regular basis. Again, getting in touch with us. We get a lot of questions through Open Data because people are looking for certain information. So if there's data that you'd like to see that we don't have, let us know. If there are partnerships, if there are trainings that you want done, if we can come to an individual community board meeting and do some training, please let us know. We're open to that and we're available for that. And lastly, just sort of diving into the data. So just some information on like what you need for diving into data, tools that'll be of use, technology that could be of use. So we try to make it really easy. So no matter what your level of usage with technology for Open Data, it's right there, and there's a path for you to take. So what I'm going to dive into is information that I think would be valuable or just using the actual site. So one of the biggest I guess, concerns people have had over the past years was searching the actual site. It can be a bit intimidating when you have 1,700 data sets. Some of our data sets are close to 200 million rows. So I kind of want to simplify that process and show you that using Open Data is actually not as difficult as it may seem up front. So I'm just going to run through a quick mock of if I was a person using the actual site and what I may be looking for. The 311 service request data set is absolutely our most popular data set. It gives you a number of fields where you can see, I guess, really get a pulse of what's going on in your community. You can see things broken down by community board, by borough, zip code. So I'm just going to do a quick search for 311 and bring that up. So what we're looking at here is pretty much our data exploration page. And when you're on this page, it's going to bring up the most relevant searches based on 311. And I want to give you just some quick tips when you're going through the site. When you come to this page, automatically, the data that you're looking for will be filtered for the official data sets. So one of the great features of the Open Data site is that when you're looking at that data, you can filter it and create your own views. So if you have your own particular community board that you want to see information for, you can just say, for example, Community Board 7. You can do that filter so you can find that information. But you want to make sure that you're looking at the official data because other people can create those same views, and you want to make sure that you're looking at the data in its entirety. Data is broken down into about 10 categories. I mean, my suggestion would just be to search what you're looking for. The categories, you can sometimes have data sets that can span multiple categories, but if you know what you're looking for, if you know you want to hear noise complaints, snow, garbage disposal, you can just enter that in, and that's probably the easiest route for you to take. We also have a number of different types of data sets, and I'm going to dive into the most popular ones. But we have maps, we have charts, we have calendars, we have things that could all be of use. But what I'm going to do right now is going to just go right into the 311 service request data set, because I think this one would be of the most interest and of the most use. before we get to the data, this is a new feature of the Open Data site. This is a Dataset landing page. So before you get to the actual data, you can find all of the information that you may want to know about this dataset. So what we're looking at here is the title, the description, so you know how timely the information is. You can see that this was updated on June 12th. This is a data set that we automate every day on a regular basis. I believe it runs at 9 p.m. So you can always look here to know how accurate and how up-to-date your data set is. We also have a tag where we note whether or not it's automated or not. We try to automate as much as possible because we feel like that gives you the data as timely as possible and the information that you want on a frequency where you can expect it. There's also a bunch of other information there, but I invite you all to just sort of explore it about usage, the number of rows in the data, et cetera, et cetera. So to actually grab the data, you would just view data. And this is what a typical data set will look like on the Open Data portal. You have this whole, you have this setup, and you'll see that across all data sets. And I just want to explain what you're looking at in here. So we're looking at 311 service requests, the created dates, the closed dates, when they come in, what agency they're being assigned to. I'm sorry, here. And I'm just going to scroll over. So the complaint type, but what I think would be the most interesting to you all is you can actually break that data by community board. And I'll show you how to do a few filters, but if you're, Brooklyn Community Board 1, that information's there. Here we have one for Brooklyn Community Board 11. So you can dive in and see all of this information that you're looking for. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to go through a quick filter to show you how that's done. Depending on your Wi-Fi connection, the internet browser you're using, these downloads could, the speed or the use will be dependent on that. But what I like to do is, unless you're looking to actually do a search on all of that data from 2010 to present, I like to try to break it down into a smaller time frame because that allows you to move a little bit quicker, and there are just less delays and hiccups. This data set has about 16 million service requests that have come in, so it's usually easier to break it down to a smaller time frame. So, and it's fairly simple when you're using that filter tab. What you get over here is the opportunity to filter everything on what you want. So this first button right here, you're filtering on the different columns that you'd like to see. What I like to do is break it down to a smaller date range. So for relevance, I'll just go by service requests that were created. And then this is your search clause. So do you want it to be exact, between these two dates, after this date, before this date? So any range that you're looking for, you can break it down and you can do that. So I'm just going to go with, I guess, this year. So I'll just say is after, and I'll pick a date, and I'm just going to scroll forward to, and for the sake of ease, I'll just go from April 1st to present. And then you just sort of let the site do its magic. Again, it's about 16 million records, so it needs to, I guess, gather itself, if you will. So right now, what we're looking at is all service requests from April 1st on. And now, you can continue to add as many filter conditions as you like. What I'm going to do is I'll break it down by community boards in Brooklyn. So one way where I can do that is this first one, as I showed you, is a listing of all of the columns in the data set. So I'm just going to bring up the one for community board. Now, to be sure that I get all of the ones in Brooklyn, what I'll do is you have a different, you can choose is, so if you're looking for a specific community board, so you could, if you want, say, 01 Brooklyn, but I'm going to just go with contains. By saying contains, I can type in the word Brooklyn. So anything that has Brooklyn in it, which will be all of the community boards, will come up in this next search. So now we're looking at all 311 service requests in Brooklyn, community boards alone.
So just,
Yes.
I want to understand clearly. After April 1st to now,
Yes.
today,
To today.
there have been 311 complaints in Community Board 1.
I'll give you the count. So if you go to this About tab over here, it'll give you a row count. So row count, That's a lot. That's 142,918 service requests from, well, it's filtered on community board, so every community board will show up. So I guess these are all in Brooklyn. Right, so they're...
The two that I see, community board 1, there's 2 rows.
Yeah. Yes.
Are those 2 complaints? And then 11 is 2 complaints? And then
Oh, no, so
14 is 1 complaint?
So what I could do is sort it. I could sort it. So I'll just sort ascending. So now they're all in order. So if I wanted, I could sort of group it, pick the ones individually, then go to that About tab and get that actual row count. But for right now, we're just looking at all of Brooklyn.
So when you go to the About tab and get the row count, you get the row count per community board, so we would know which community boards were getting the most 311 calls since April?
So you could do some filters and do that, and I can show you how to do that. So you can do that through a filter, or if you want, just do the community boards alone. But I'll show you how to do that filter.
The default sort column is update date?
The default will just be by that unique identifier that we had at the end.
Oh,
So
okay.
it could just be a mixture in any.
And before you put it in ascending order or descending order, the 2 that populated
Yeah.
for 1 and then 11, what was that category that it only had 2?
Oh, no, so, I'm sorry, yeah, because it just came up in a random order, so it wasn't necessarily limited to those in particular. But right now, I think it's filtered on community board 1, so the ones that came up, there are complaint types and a descriptor, so the complaint type gives you your overall, it's more of like a, higher level of what's going on, then the descriptor is more specific. So for this one, it was a noise complaint, and this was noise construction before, after certain hours. So the complaint type and the descriptor is always what you'll want to refer back to see exactly what you are looking at. And you could filter these as well.
Exactly, that's what I wanted to ask.
Right.
So that you understand what's your top
Yes.
complaint.
Yes. So you could do a sort on these as well, or if you want, you could bring up something in particular. So if you just wanted to see noise, for instance, you could filter this quality. Air quality popped up first. You could filter it for. I'm sorry, I picked broken unimeter, but you could filter it for whatever complaint or descriptor that you're looking for. Yeah, so it's at some point there are a number of broken unimeters or out of order unimeters.
But can it tell you without having to click on the descriptor?
Yep.
What is the top complaint?
Yes, I'll show you how to do that. So if you go to, and I'm gonna undo that filter that I have on it right now. So I'm just going to clear the filter, so we're right back to all the ones in Brooklyn. So by visualizing this, so probably the easiest way to do it is to do some sort of a visualization. So what I'll do is, this may extend out a little bit, but I'll do a column. And then I will do this column based on the complaint type. And oh yeah, I'm sorry. And I'm sorry for everyone who just joined. My name's Albert Weber from DoIT, the Department of Information Technology and Telecommunications, and I'm the Director of Open Data there at DoIT. One of the things with the live demos is there seems to be a graying out of columns that I'm not able to choose at this moment.
Was that always the case?
No, it wasn't. Something there may have been some sort of a tech. I'm sorry? over the weekend, there was a bit of maintenance on the site. I'm gonna try a different route. So I'm gonna try this sort and roll up filter first. I'm sorry, bear with me. There were some slight changes on the site over the weekend.
Plus, you're one-handed on your feet with a microphone.
Yeah, that's not helping exactly. So we'll go by complaint type. We'll go ascending. We'll apply this. All right, so now we have that filtered out, and then I'll visualize this in the column chart. The change is still in place.
Banging on the desk and cursing usually works for me.
Yes, slight technical difficulties. I may have to come back around and show you all this, because what usually happens is these are grayed out, but I could kind of create a chart with two different scales. So I'd be looking at complaint types versus a community board or something of that sort, but for some reason these columns are showing up as invalid. Open data is usually way simpler than this.
Some of us would debate that point. And also a question, and this may be a question best addressed to Joe. What is the connectivity here? Because I don't think I've ever done a search and ended up with a filtered data set. And that goes for my assistant district manager as well. And I have a DSL line. Is this a T3 line? What do you have here?
So one of the things that can impact any search that you're doing is the time that you're doing it, because like I said, we have our automations that run. So typically, this is just sort of a behind-the-scenes heads up. Our automations tend to run around 2 p.m. in the afternoon. So between 2 and 3 o'clock when data is loading, it can sort of slow down a little bit, because some of them have millions and millions of rows that are processing. So I'd say between 2 and 3 o'clock, just a heads up behind the scenes that our automated processes are running, and it could slow down a little bit in terms of that connectivity.
Thanks. Maybe I need to work on some of these, the visualize tab more, because I end up doing data sets and then kind of having to count. Like if I'm looking at types of complaints within Community Board 14 for a certain time period, then I kind of have to scroll, and then I sort them. I scroll down and I see how many, I get to whatever row that number is and jot it down. So I end up putting a lot of things on paper because I can't get to a place where it's just sorting it. So am I right thinking that I just need to work on utilizing the visualization tab?
So it's right now there seems to be something going wrong with the visualization tab. But yes, typically you'll do a filter, you'll do a sort and a roll up. So what it'll do is it'll filter on what you're looking for, it'll sort it, and then it'll roll it up into individual columns. So it'll sort it by whatever you're looking for, and then you'll get that row count for each individual one.
Okay, so filter, sort, roll up. Sounds like a workout.
And I could, there are actually videos that can show you exactly how to do this, and I can share that with you as well.
One more question?
While Barry is giving me the microphone, thanks. This is all getting us to descriptive places. Is there any, and we don't need a demonstration necessarily today, but just knowing whether or not it's there, is there any way that you can look at the data to establish causality or anything like that, or is it all just, is this all geared for descriptive?
Yeah, it's raw data. Yeah, it's raw data. So what we're doing is we're putting the raw data out there. We're trying to give more and more tools that allow you to do some of that cross-analysis, but for now it's just the data that's out there.
My question was, is it possible to create a personalized view?
Yes.
So in other words, when I log in, not to have to go through the whole thing, I just can create that.
So I'm not logged in right now, but what you're seeing here is a save tab. So you could save that, and that URL that it's actually saved will always be there for you to use. It will update as our data updates. So it'll always be available for you. So if you pick a filter from 2010 to present, it will always update, so you won't have to do anything with it.
As long as you save.
As long as you save it. So you'll need an account to save it. Now for basic access to the actual site, you can always log on and just create filters and search and navigate. But if you want to save anything, you'll need to create an account on the site, which is just an email address and a password that you're
How
you're
many
setting
of
up.
you have an email account and a password for open data? Okay. 2 people. I think. You've never saved anything?
No, I always start off with,
So that's part of the efficiency that we want to make sure we're utilizing what is this platform, right, of raw data to serve you as the user, to serve your constituency, right? And making sure that we understand how to utilize it, right? That as opposed to just, you know, going halfway through it or picking but not knowing exactly how that particular selection can be transformed into other possibilities, right? So the visualization, which is why I was so eager to see, you know, how far can open data take me so that I'm doing less work, less analyzing, and it's doing the work for me. So I'm a better advocate for my constituency.
And I'm sorry about these, what's going on right here.
You just did it because you're in Brooklyn.
No.
The construction was first, now this. You owe us big time now.
We do. We do. What I'll do is, what I promise to do is, I'll create a list of steps so you can see exactly how you can go through this, and I'll forward that along to everyone to see. So you can see specifically how you would do that filter that you're looking for. What I'll also do is I'll create a few filters, if anyone has anything they'd like to see specifically, and I'll save it, and I'll send the URLs, and I'll distribute that so everyone can see the steps I took, what I actually created, to see that, you know, it can really happen. One thing that should work right here is, I just wanted to give you a quick look at how you visualize data using an actual map.
And this was just getting started when I left the council. We passed this legislation in the city council. And to see it transformed into this is remarkable. Now it's a matter of actually utilizing it.
So in terms of visualizations, you can do visualizations, but you can also use maps. So here you don't need to have any expensive mapping tools like CartoDB or Esri or anything like that. You can do everything in platform. So via the Visualize tab, you can pick your map style. You can have a point map, boundaries, heat. I'll just go point maps for right now. It'll automatically give you your location column, so you have nothing to do there. And then it just comes down to what sort of map you like to use. I personally like the Google Road Map. And once you apply that, it takes all of the service requests that came in, and you get a map view of it. So I'm just going to zoom in. The initial view will be a big cluster, and as you zoom in, and I'm zooming out, you can break down each request that's coming in, and you can sort of create a map, and you can see where they're happening. I'm sorry. And these addresses, they tend to come up on the map as being to the nearest intersection or the nearest mid-block point. So you can see all of the requests, and you can see pretty much where they're happening. So from a visual, these are all of the service requests. So this isn't filtered on anything right now. It's in ascending order. The data is still there for you to see at the bottom, but these are all of the requests that are coming in, and they're showing up there on the map.
So this is, agency name is Department of Transportation, the Muni meter, broken Muni meter complaint. Descriptor, what is no receipt? Oh, that's the complaint, that's the description.
Yes,
of
yeah,
the
exactly. And this, the data still stays at the bottom for you to see. So it's still the same data that you were looking at. It's still in that same ascending order. So if I was to scroll a little bit further down, there'd probably be one for a noise complaint or something like that. This is just what happens to be at the top based on the filter.
What happens, is there, beyond those field categories,
Yeah.
does it say when that was generated and
Yes.
when it was resolved?
Yeah, so you can see the created date here
Uh-huh,
and the close date.
uh-huh.
So it gives you the date and the time. So this one was created on April 28th at 10:40. It's closed on May 10th at 8:17.
And so that close date is reflecting a fixed problem?
Let me see if the resolution,
Madam Deputy, you're being rhetorical? Or are you never?
so we have the resolution description. So for this particular one, general maintenance and cleaning is on a regular schedule. The next scheduled maintenance and cleaning will correct the condition.
The
So-
next,
So it's telling you how it was resolved. So I guess if this one was for,
it's telling me that it's not resolved, but that at the next visit,
yeah, so I think what they're saying is whatever the issue was, their schedule for regular maintenance or routine maintenance is still in place. So at the next scheduled maintenance, whatever that time frame is,
Right.
it will be resolved.
right? And so, you know, part of what, and chime in, right? Part of what community boards are trying to make sure is that they're managing what would be constituent complaints like this and trying to resolve them with agencies, and the feedback of accuracy, real time, and what does that resolution look like as opposed to just a generic, because that is a populated, predetermined response, right?
I'm not,
That-
yeah.
That can just continue into a vicious cycle, and that muni meter will never get fixed. So just as an example, I just wanted to make sure that, because technology is great, but it's only as good as the human side of accountability. And so I just want to understand how accurate is the resolution action beyond the text that's used as a template to populate the open data source.
And that's something I can follow up with 311 on. So from our, and I guess we do the technology behind it. So we work closely with 311, and I can pose that question to them and get you a response, just in terms of that human element and how much of it is involved here versus something that's pre-filled or auto-generated. From what I understand, these are actual resolution descriptions, because these are going to every agency, and the agency has people on their team that handles this. So from what I understand, that this is the determination of that agency, but I can follow up with that, absolutely.
Because there's no other entry beyond what was May 10th, when they were scheduled for their next visit for
Right.
maintenance, which means that should be reflected as to
Right.
when was the next maintenance visit.
When was the next maintenance visit, and then was it actually, updated at that point in time? I understand. Mhm.
So that this is a real-time conversation.
Right.
So yes.
I'm sorry. I just have a quick question, because I'm curious. Who, within the city agencies, oftentimes we have found on a few instances that the coding changes. So, for example, missed bulk collections in my district. Used to be if you missed your collection after 24 hours, you could file a complaint, and it'd be on open data. It's a good tool for us. And now that's changed to 311 will not take a complaint till 2, sometimes 3 days after a missed collection because of an internal rule change. And that skews the data, I feel. So how are those changes made, and is that by internal procedure? Does that have to go through DoIT? I'm just curious how that works.
So from our end, I guess we're the facilitators of open data. So in terms of operational decisions, that's on the agency. So what happens is for 311 specifically, we're simply connecting to a database. So operationally, I'm not sure how 311 operates on their end, but whatever they reflect in their actual system, we're grabbing every 24 hours. So that's a question that I could take to 311 or any relevant agency, but we're just like the open data facilitators from a technology perspective.
And just, can you just elaborate? It was 311 rule change, or was it sanitation change?
I think it was a sanitation change.
That's
I
what
think
it
they were
sounds
getting a
like.
lot of bulk complaints, and they said instead of 1 day, we're going to make it 2 days. In some cases, they're going to make it 3 days. We have building type complaints that they changed. They no longer take, the buildings department no longer accepts zoning complaints.
Right.
So we can no longer search for those on open data. It's really become very difficult. We brought that to the attention of the agency. And so
Which
data
agency?
that we've, the Department of Buildings, the Department of Sanitation,
But
we have a
not
few
do it.
examples. Not do it.
Right, so part of the gap here,
Yeah.
we're just trying to fill the gap, right? So they're responding with feedback, but it's, I don't know what's happening with that feedback to come back to you so that there's an interagency collaboration in addressing what was useful information to service the public.
One of the things that we're exploring is creating an alerts page. So when a change like that happens, we make it known. So if for some reason if a descriptor is removed for any reason, that would be put up front so everyone would be aware of that. But
Did you notice that at any point, that the descriptor was removed?
Well, we have, especially searching for, let's say, massage parlors. I couldn't pull up into you know, Community Board 11's page to see how many complaints for massage parlors were made, because the Department of Buildings took away that availability. And it seems to me it's kind of a manipulation of the data, because then we're not showing that in our statistics of what the real issues are.
And it's great if you have that feedback for us, because from the open data end, we're also responsible for sharing open data legislative changes. So there was a law passed in late 2015 that said no record level data can be deleted. So if you're finding that a record is disappearing, it shouldn't. So if you see that, please point that out to
Well,
us.
I don't believe it's disappearing. I think they're changing the coding on
Oh,
how
okay.
the 311 operator takes it. If I call up and say, I want to report an illegal massage parlor, I can't. It's an illegal conversion of a commercial space. It's not really drilling down to what the issue is, so then you can't see
Understood.
how widespread it is.
Right, so just to stay on that, the use was removed, and now it's just basically the brick and mortar aspect of
Correct.
it, as opposed to both.
Correct.
And so how would you go back to the Department of Buildings to say, we don't have to remove what would be use, we just have to add the element so that it, whether you're searching under massage parlor or what would be illegal conversion, because illegal conversion could be a residential illegal conversion versus a massage parlor claiming it's a nail salon or whatever.
Right.
Yeah, that's something that we would have to work with the agency on and just be transparent about that change happening or trying not to make that change. But that's something we'd have to take back to the agency.
So that's a very important point, because in that particular community, there was this big issue versus other community boards where it was a matter that people needed to report in a very specific way, so that there's
Go ahead.
enforcement that would respond accordingly. And it's not just DOB.
Right. It's the same issue we have on illegal curb cuts.
Yeah.
That search mechanism was taken away. It's now in a different category, so you really can't get a good reflection of what's taking place. And the sanitation collection is very big, because as we're reviewing Local Law 77 of 2013 and organics, we've had a lot of changes. So I want to take a look at, my community is inundated with missed bulk collections. It is not reflective in the data since that change was made. So that, how can I bring that case to the Department of Sanitation if they're manipulating the data to show that there isn't a problem when I know on the ground that there is? So I think that I will send that to you, because I think it's something that we weren't notified of that change. And it seems like there's a lot of flexibility within the agency, and it impacts our service delivery. So thank you.
And Stacy, as far as these issues are concerned, how can we make sure that you're getting, is it better to email you directly, email both of you? Like, I want to make sure that this doesn't get lost. This is the feedback loop that I want to continue to engage on with Do It, because this is the platform that will help you do your work better and efficiently.
So, hi, I'm Stacy. I'm the Director of External Affairs for Do It. So every now and then I gets either a district manager or a council member coming to me saying, you know, is there a complaint type category for something specific? And in that case, I work with 311 to resolve that. So if there's a complaint type that is not either, you know, when you call 311, they're saying, I can't put in a complaint for that, there's no way for us to do that, then maybe a different category needs to be created. And, you know, a couple months ago, we just signed a contract with IBM to do systems integration for 301. So 301 has been the same since 2003. And obviously, it needed a tech upgrade, so we finally got that registered with the controller, and that's something we're going to be working on over the next year and a half, actually. So I think 311 is going to become a lot more efficient over the next year and a half. But in the meantime, I think these little things that are helpful to you, you know, as a matter of open data, this data set is owned by 311, and so we manage what they give us, and we put it up on the open data portal.
So
but
can you just explain that? 311 owns this data.
Right.
So that is, 311 is the city of New York.
Right. So, you know, so if you went to the data catalog, and we have 1,700 data sets, this is one of 1,700. You know, DOT has a bunch of data sets, so you could look at collision data, for example, and you could sort it the same way. We're just looking at that one data set, but DOT is the owner of that data set. And by owner, I mean they are generating the data, and they are giving it to do it, to put it in the one-stop shop portal. So,
which is
yes.
open data.
Right. So our role is ensuring that the data is kept current, and that's why we do automations. And 301, obviously very popular and lots of information coming in. That's why it's automated once a day, so that you have the most accurate information. But as far as, you know, what is actually in the data, that is the responsibility of each agency. And so Al and his team do a lot of brokering as far as getting them to give more data, or if there's an issue with it, he goes back to them and tries to resolve it. So we're really the technologists, the actual information within the data sets that is at the agency level. So as far as 311 goes, if there is a description type that needs to be added, then we can work with 311 to do that.
I think the point, and you made it very clear, that the agency controls what they're given. And if they decide not to have a complaint for that particular category, then we're not going to get it. So I think that's something we should think about, that each agency is the final decision maker on what data you're getting.
Because that
and then
massage
we're getting.
parlor,
And it could
because
be
of its
anything.
use, is not just a DOB issue, it's an NYPD issue. And so that's the enforcement piece that then does not get addressed.
Right. And
because it's not generated as such.
right. Or let's say they take a complaint, but it's, you know, on the open data portal, it shows up under a broader category, and that doesn't help you zero in on it. I mean, I've gotten requests from council members and community boards before to parse that out, and 301 has always been very helpful. So if you want to give me an exact description of what it is that you think will be helpful for you, and that won't just be on open data, that'll just be for anyone to call up and say, you know, there's a massage parlor, please have someone check this out.
So just to make you aware, at one point when we were trying to call in massage parlors, they would not take the complaint as a zoning building issue. The operator wanted to patch us through to 911. is a crime in progress for prostitution. And a criminal aspect is not what we're dealing with. I don't
Right.
believe my colleagues from community boards, we're not dealing with the criminal. That's a case for police enforcement. We're dealing with the use of the building and the type of business in the community. So we ran into problems. We couldn't make those complaints through 311.
Yeah, and I'm happy to help broker that with 311, and they work with the agency as far as, you know, what code enforcement they need to do, but we can certainly help with that because I get those requests.
Thank you.
So I want to follow up on, I guess there's two parts here. I mean, is basically you're capturing the data and you can only capture what you're sent. As far as 311, I think, if I may be mistaken, the problem is really that sometimes you can't zero in to the data, but the data is there.
Correct.
But you have much more than 311 on the site, so you have agency-specific data, right? So in the agency-specific data, I've tried to get some data from certain agencies and they wouldn't release it. Now, is that something that DoIT can help out with? Or, because 301, whatever is called in, is actually, you know, sent over. There's so much data they can't nitpick, but certain agencies want certain data kept. And there's a reason they don't want to release it. Now, can DoIT help with getting that data and asking them to share it, or do we have to go to that specific agency?
I think on two fronts we can help. So I think DoIT can help, but I also think some legislation that was passed could help you as well. So what we do is we work with agencies. So there's a law that was passed that said any data that anyone requests, an agency has to make a final determination on its release within 2 months. So pretty much if you're saying that you want information on all the police cars in the city, within 2 months, the agency has to make a determination of, is that public data? If yes, then let everyone know when that data will be released. So if you have anything specific that you're looking for, we call it Dataset nominations. You could request it, make that nomination. It will go to the agency. They'll have to make a decision on whether or not it's public and release it or not release it if it's not public.
Basically, DoIT is the conduit to getting the data, but not necessarily you know, making a decision of what data is shown and what not. That's up to the agency, basically.
It is, but when we go to meetings and we meet with people that have interest in certain data, it's always something that we take back. So for instance, this resolution description wasn't always in the data set, but people always requested it. So we went to 311 and we said, hey, this is something that if it's being captured, we should be releasing, and it was released. So that feedback is you know, it's very helpful. It truly is. Yeah, I'll show you the form where you can actually submit that. So via the Contact Us tab.
Has anyone here ever nominated?
It's a good tool.
Yeah.
So we've changed the interface of how it looks, but pretty much your name, your email, and then how can we help you? So there are a number of things that you can actually request from us here, and this is being monitored by the Open Data team. DoIT and the Mayor's Office of Data Analytics. So we're all monitoring this. So the top one here, because it's the most popular, is request a data set. So anything you're looking for, we take that in, we route it directly to the agency. But at the same time, if you'd like to request a training, if you'd like to suggest a partnership, that's all things that we're looking at and we want to discuss further.
We're kind of all talking about the different agencies interface with 311 and data differently, and this is only capturing their policy toward reporting data. And so, in some ways, there's not going to, this is a data set of apples and oranges and pineapples and pears. So I guess my question is, for agencies, like we talk a lot about Department of Buildings calling things resolved because they've sent an inspector out twice and couldn't gain access, and they call it resolved, and then we have to re-report it. Is there a way we can capture that status as distinct from actually resolving the issue in the data set such that DOB doesn't necessarily have to change what they call it, but we would get a better view of it through the data?
I guess if if somehow, and I'm not familiar with the operations, if somehow that specific information is being captured somewhere else, in another field somewhere, it would be a matter of releasing that information in that field. But I don't know if that exists. I don't know if they're, you know, how they're thinking about it or how they capture it. But if it is, that's something that we could take back to them and potentially have it be released as a field, if it exists. I don't know if that answers your question.
Yeah, it does. It just raises another.
That binary field?
Or maybe you could filter by, you know, if the resolution is a, you know, a boilerplate answer saying, you know, we went there, knocked on the door and left. Are you seeing that the resolution is like the same text, or is it different each time?
No, it just says resolved. It's just the one word, and we've talked to them about the definition of the word resolved.
Okay.
But there's something in their system that knows that it wasn't resolved because it was cured, and maybe that's the other word that we would look for, right? But if
it says they couldn't get access.
yeah.
Okay. And are you seeing a difference between what you see on, like, let's say, the BIS site, the Buildings Information System, versus what's on Open Data? Is that a description? Okay.
But on Open Data, right, but it'll say closed on Open Data. So yeah, there's a description, but it says closed. Right.
And
so
it shouldn't.
It shouldn't.
Or there's more information on Buildings Information System than there is on Open Data.
Yeah.
Okay. Then it's possible there should be another field for those specific types of complaints.
And if we had the filter set up right, if we had something saved, then we could trigger knowing which DOB complaints that we put in were closed without being actually resolved, right? We could set that up.
So I'm not sure if I'm...
A no access versus closed resolved, right? So it's what you mentioned, right? Maybe we need to change the description so that it doesn't reflect closed. It's that the inspector
Couldn't gain
arrives
access.
but never gained access.
Right.
Because then we'd have something that would trigger us to re-report things. We wouldn't have to wait for, you know, running into the next door neighbor who complains about the abandoned property, you know, at the next community meeting. But there'd be something that said, oh, they went twice, they couldn't get in, get it back into the system.
So I think that does make sense in terms of like that close versus
No access.
Yeah, versus no access. So we do have a number of data sets from the Department of Buildings, things around permits and inspections and things of that sort. I'm not an expert on the DOB data, but we do have a number of data sets from DOB's BizWeb system that are updated on a regular basis. But I've never really dived in to see how it correlates to 311.
Right now,
Yeah, sure.
to DOB, filter what would be no access.
I don't.
I want to see what comes up.
All right, so I just did a search on DOB. So if DOB is anywhere else, it could come up. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to go specifically to DOB data. So in this agency tab, I'm just going to scroll down to the Department of Buildings. And I'm going to get rid of this DOB search. All right, so right now we're looking at all of DOB's data sets. I'm not sure what in here correlates to what's in 311, but there's information on application filings, permit issuance, complaints, property data from BizWeb. There's a number of data sets here from the Department of Buildings.
Complaints or violations.
So which one do we choose? And then filter no access.
I don't know what field it would be in, so I'm just going to do a general search in the data set.
Illegal conversion would be.
That's the point.
That's the point, they don't have it.
Yeah, it's not, I just want to understand.
Just close.
You're
Right.
right, yeah.
There's no.
No rows to display.
Yeah.
Right. And
Right.
so there's a difference with the description of what is resolved or closed when the inspector arrives and they didn't gain access. And so at the very least, if no access as a descriptive word is also an option for the inspector to report access, then it allows for us to then trigger what would be an additional complaint so that they continue going
Right.
back.
What I could hope for, and I haven't, again, dived into this data too much, is maybe there's a note.
No, there's no. We've looked.
No.
No, there's no.
And when you think about illegal dwellers, right, like that's a big deal. Because now you're talking about what could be the illegal dwelling piece being captured more easily and probably showing what is a master list of property owners who are not allowing on purpose access to these properties for better monitoring.
It's all lumped in, versions, right. It's kind of all lumped in.
So if that could be one of the areas with the agency specifically, DOB 311, that you can have a conversation around, that new category descriptive phrase of no access, that would be very helpful. Is there, I know that you had a whole presentation, Albert, I know we interrupted it because there was
No.
an engagement of questions and
No,
answers.
no worries.
So I don't know if there's anything else that's worthy of us, having knowledge on, that is useful to our community board, district managers, but I didn't want to not give
Oh,
you
no,
the
no
opportunity
worries.
to continue.
There are only two, I guess, links or resources I wanted to make you aware of. So one is for videos for how to use the site, and it's pretty straightforward because we're on data.cityofnewyork.us, and in the slash you would just put in videos.
And while you're, wow, that was fun. Can this give you the opportunity to upload photos as part of the open data?
So we can't, we have one data set where we have photos. So for parking violations that are issued, you can see a copy of the actual ticket that was issued. So that's the only place where we actually have photos up. Generally for open data, we only want structured data by the open data law. So photos don't fall under the open data law. So we could add attachments if we needed to, but typically we're just looking for data to load.
You have actual photos of the tickets
We do.
with the license plates showing?
Yeah.
Everything is possible. And so for, let's say,
Invasion of privacy.
an illegal dumping of garbage, right? That a picture
Oh, I see what you're saying.
could be taken to support the data information. Is that something that, in the evolution of open data, that's going to be the next phase?
So we would have the capability to do it because we give the image of the parking violation. That would be more of a 3-on-1 operational decision to accept the photos. And I guess if they could, do they? I believe they do. But I don't know how it's stored. So it would be a technology conversation that we would have to have. So for the Department of Finance, for the parking violations, the image of the tickets is stored, and we pretty much link to the image. So technologically, yeah, I guess it could be possible.
And that could be a request from.
That could be a feature request to open data. But it would also be an operational piece because agencies capture things differently. Even though they come to 3-in-1, they're assigned to agencies, so everything is, it's agency dependent. So there are a number of steps that it would have to go through.
Right, no,
for
I value that. I'm just thinking of another category, graffiti removal, right?
Right.
Like
Oh,
there's just
it was in the council already.
many
They squashed it.
public complaints that validating what would be a picture allows for you to keep a record of what was before and after, that holds an accountability level beyond what is data.
Right, right.
And so I just wanted to understand that, and I don't know if that's of value to our district managers, where a digital photo archived as part of open data can be useful.
If they have it, why not? But it's usually the other way around. Usually we give Department of Sanitation pictures of what's going on in our district. When we ask them to act on the example we give dumping, we usually have the picture and we say, hey, this is going on here. We need to take some action.
And the point, Barry, what you're just saying is that sanitation has it, but it's not publicized as part of open data.
Right.
Well,
So that-
here's the tricky thing about that, from my layman's point of view, is in my database that I use just in the office, our little clunky Excel spreadsheet, we'll upload photographs into one of our columns, but then there would be no sort of sortability on that, or, I mean, because it seems like data is to take all these little individual things and bring it up into a bigger picture, and taking a photograph is really taking a bigger picture and bringing it down to a granular level.
But the photo is supported by what was reported as the intersection where it's happening.
Right, I'm just thinking about sortability of it, like what, you couldn't just bring up like, let's search for all the pictures and then have an overview, a photographic overview.
The picture of the parking ticket, the value of that is what?
It allows an ALJ to decide if there's any defects to the violation itself, whether the address is wrong, the VIN number is wrong.
Right, but for open data, I'm referring to.
For open data, I believe it's additional information. From a practical perspective, I think it helps, those firms that help fighting tickets and things like that. But from open data, it's valuable. It's more
Right.
transparency.
It's just another document.
Every
right?
ticket can be looked up Department of Finance website.
Yeah, but I think it's a little bit easier on open data, but I'm not sure if all of that information is on their website. I know some of it is, but I'm not sure if all of it is there.
So the video.
Yeah, so these are just video guides on how to do different things within a data set. So some of the filtering, creating a map, creating a chart. So it's just information on basic site usability.
You can download data from open data.
Yes, you can download it in a number of formats, and for the technologists, you can connect to it via API, which a lot of application developers would prefer, as opposed to downloading a file every day and repeating that process.
So you can download it into other documents? You could put it into like an SPSS or an Excel or something like that?
I can show you the format. So you can bring it up, you can download it, pretty much Excel, CSV. No, not Microsoft Access. I didn't mean to say that. I just want to show you the listing of like of what you can, of the different formats. Just pick Java. So via this export tab, you can download as, and I'll just read these off, CSV, CSV for Excel, CSV for Excel Europe, JSON, RDF, RSS, TSV, and XML. And also you can, for the developers, your API endpoint, which comes back in JSON. So everything can be done through the export tab.
Thanks.
And you have a third item you wanted to share.
Yeah, so the last thing was just, I don't know if it's useful, but we get requests a lot for our site analytics, where people are, I'm just curious on how much it's being used or what people tend to be looking for. So it's the same URL, just like the other one was /videos, this is /analytics. So we just made the decision. This is like an administrative function that we have, but we just figured why not make it public. So you can just see site usability. And if you scroll down, the top data sets by usage, you can see the top search terms. Building is number one. Embeds. So another thing that you can do is when you create these filtered views, there's an embed code in the site. So if you have your, your own community board page, you can take that filter and embed it to a website page. So instead of having to like reproduce that data and upload it, you can just sort of point to it on your site, and it'll just blend in with your actual page.
So each community board's web page could have what would be a 30-day report on complaints.
Yep. Yes.
And how many community boards here have a website? Everybody does. And does anybody have what would be a data analytics report from what you've seen here today on the website?
Maybe. We have ClickFix that I think you can draw some stuff.
I'm sorry?
ClickFix.
I'm not familiar.
It's a complaint rewarding app, but I think you can pull some collected information. Yeah, and it's clunky.
And it's not sitting, right? And so taking open data, because I used to get that as well as a council member, and I would get, it's more of an independent site platform.
Well, what's always been interesting to me, and we haven't gotten one in a long time, is remember when the Mayor's Office of Operations gave us a breakdown of the top 311 complaints for our community boards, and I looked at it, and it didn't jive at all with the top 10 complaints that came in directly to the community board, and I just thought it was really interesting that there were two very different pieces of the puzzle. And so I've kind of struggled throughout the years trying to fit them together. So maybe using this more for our community board will help do that. But I wondered, we don't really have any way of bringing our data up to you, and that might be something that we want to talk about in order to build a. Can you build a better puzzle?
That's a great segue into the second half of this discussion, right? So, Albert, thank you very much for this presentation.
Of course.
Right? I hope that you guys can continue to utilize now at a more expanded version of what open data can provide for you. But just to enter into that conversation about how do we get what you are collecting that is not being reflected, and there was some portion that was answered, which was the requests through open data. If you don't see a data set in here, that you can certainly request it. So that's one way, right? But if you can give some other challenges that you have as district managers that you need to convey as feedback that we can work on with Do It to address those challenges, now is the time.
Are we done with them today?
Yes, no, this was the presentation for you, right? How many of you learned something today? Right?
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
And that's the whole point, right? We're not going to be meeting for the summer. There's going to be a lot of opportunity for you to explore this site on your own. I'd love to see September, a 30-day report or a summer report, a quarterly report that connects what would be this data pertaining to your community board on your website. That's the end goal, right? To see that would be valuable for the public and for yourselves, right? That opportunity is where there's transparency in the process. Because if you knew of this and you're not utilizing it, or you're partially utilizing, imagine the general public. Right? Like, not many people, unless you're technologically involved, would want to even go into this website. So you're the conduit between this and the public. So now, as far as the challenges are concerned, have a seat, please. That's yours. Barry, you used to mention, right, access to the council staff.
Right. So last time you were here, you said that DO IT is having meetings with the council staff people, or internally to see how we can get a system for community boards to track their constituent services. And at the last meeting, you weren't here, the Deputy Borough President said that that's a no-go, right? That's what you reported.
Go ahead.
Yeah, well, so we actually met with Diana about a month ago, 2 months ago.
Yeah.
And I brought in our technologists who would work on that, you know, finding the solutions that you guys need. And I think what we talked about was a little different than just a simple constituent management relationship management software. So I think we should follow up on that one piece.
Your team was going to go back to digest the feedback that I brought them from you, right? Because there's an assumption of certain things as the end user that makes it seem that there's no need for an additional council stat format at the district level. And so that was one part. And then the second part was, do the community boards utilize open data as a platform to deal with constituent complaints?
Yeah.
And that was the piece where you, as an agency, felt it was important for us to have this training, right? So that all of us could be on the same page and understand how useful the training can be to maximize utilization of this particular open data source.
Yeah.
And the wide range of how it can serve you as district managers. So this is where we are, right? So we completed the training portion, and that can only benefit you if you go back and you start actually capturing the data, running reports, utilizing it to understand whether or not is this your council stat? And if it is not, why not, right? So now we have hand.
Yeah, I mean, so I would, there are definitely differences. I mean, I think what you're inquiring about would be, you know, Mrs. Smith comes in and she has a complaint about a crack in the sidewalk, and you have a place where you can track that from your end, so what you're doing for Mrs. Smith.
Right.
What open data can do, and which I used when I worked in the council, I did create, I would very much recommend making an account with the filtered views. That just helps you look at what people are complaining about that they might not be bringing to you. Maybe there are broken meters on every commercial strip in your district, and you wouldn't know it. No one's coming to you and complaining about it. But if you look at the open data, you can see that that's happening. Or if someone comes to you and says, oh, there's trucks parked illegally on this one street all the time. I call through one all the time, and no one ever does anything. You can actually go in and see, well, are they actually complaining about it, or are they just saying that they did, or, you know, has one person put in every complaint? So that open data is going to help you with a very wide snapshot of what people are calling
open data is a broad view. I understand what you're saying, but this is basically not at all what we were asking for.
Right, so I want you to get into what it is you're looking for, because remember the IBM contract 311 is going to be refreshed, right? This is the opportunity for us to really engage in what is it that you would need, because there may be an opportunity, and this was part of the conversation, to refresh and take into account what is the challenge that you're continuing to point out. And that's what I really want to get into right now.
Okay,
Yes.
so the challenge for me is I'm sometimes in the office when my staff is not there, and I get calls, follow-ups. And they call me, okay, I was dealing with so-and-so in your office on this and this complaint. I'm like, okay, I'll have her call you back tomorrow. That's not good for me. I want to be able to get them an answer. So if I go on the computer and see so-and-so, my staff, called this person at this agency, and this is what the answer they got, I can tell that resident right away, okay, this is what we did about this. This is where we're up to. We're waiting for an answer from this person at this agency. But I have no idea what's going on. I need to know what's going on in my office at the snap of a finger, and that's not happening. And that's part one. Just that we should know, everybody in the office should know what's going on at all times. Okay, right now it's this person handling this case, this person handling this case.
There's no one platform.
There's no one platform.
Right.
That's number one. And number two, sometimes cases, a lot of times, not sometimes, cases involve a few different agencies, right? And a few different people. Or within one agency, there's this person say, well, I'm not the right man to talk to. You got to talk to this guy, and you call this guy. So now you had contact with a few people on one case. I want to see what's going on. I want to see who we spoke to. This person said, call this person. I want to have a record of that. Okay? And that's not happening. It's just, it's very cumbersome the way we're doing it now. We're not working cohesively in the office as a team because
there's no software application.
no software
That's
application to track that.
Yeah.
There's also a time frame by which we should follow up. Sometimes that time frame is in a couple weeks, and sometimes it's 18 months. So there'd be something to like a tickler in the system to say, oh, you have the deadline with DOT on the speed hump request. If you haven't heard from them, we should be following up.
And council staff actually had that. So the benefit of working with the council is, first of all, working for the great institution of the council, but also that the council staff had, like you put in that you have to follow up. It actually sent you a reminder, an email popped up in your council email saying, okay, this is due right now. Council staff could generate letters. I sometimes, I have form letters for agencies, but sometimes so many other issues come up, I can't have a form letter for each different complaint. I have to start writing and writing each letter. Council staff, you can put in a letter, pop up this complaint, you get the form letter, you just change the fields a little, and you got your letter to send out. It's just, we need something like this, and it's actually, when I became a district manager, I was surprised that we don't have something like this. I was, and
Yes.
yes. It made a lasting impression, obviously. So I just don't
We were
understand.
spoiled in the council, it's for sure.
Yes, yes.
And it took a long time to get us there, right? So I want to make sure that I hear from the others.
I just wanted to concur with Barry and everyone else because on my desk I have
Marie, can you give her the mic, honey? Yeah. I want to make sure that there's a.
I have posted, stuff all over the place, and like he's saying, takes longer for some complaints to actually get resolved, and then you have to go back and search. I created folders within my email account, but then DoIt removes it after a while. Like after a couple of months, it disappears.
It goes into
have
the
to
archive.
Yes.
Yeah.
And so now
That's
you have
another
somebody
story.
on the phone, you have to now go search for this. It's too time consuming.
The search on the email is
Exactly.
completely
It's
not
working.
working.
Yes.
The email's not working.
Yes.
So this is where everyone gets really
Yeah.
passionate right now, right?
Right.
Because, and Borough Hall doesn't have council stat. We want council stat as well. And it's a license that is controlled with DoIt, right? And so
We don't have council stat.
I know the council does. And so what would it take for that license to be expanded so that, is it a conversation with DoIt and the council?
Well, so council stat is one program of a certain type. So that's like customer relationship management software, and there are countless numbers of those.
Right.
CouncilStat is, in my opinion, a little clunky and old. So it's not just what I'm getting from you guys now is that you need a solution that fits your needs, and CouncilStat isn't the only solution to that. And so when Kate and Don and I met with you, that was something we wanted to parse out, and this feedback helps. And I can bring that back to Don because he is the technology expert.
And he was very interested. Like,
Yeah,
he
he's
realized
very
challenge.
knowledgeable, yes. So he is the person I have to bring all the feedback to, because I don't know off the top of my head what solution is best in this situation to be used in community boards.
Would it be helpful? I would be happy to send you my Excel spreadsheet, and you could look at it and go, oh my gosh, this is so hideously imperfect, but it would give you an idea of what we
What
put
types of
into it
fields,
and what.
yeah. And I actually, when I was in the council, I used a spreadsheet instead of CouncilStat. So,
So maybe
Oh, your bias is showing.
but I think, again, there are some very useful things in that type of software, but that's not the,
I hope you're not getting the idea that we want CouncilStat and CouncilStat only. We're asking for
something like that.
like that.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. That doesn't have to be CouncilStat.
I
I'll
gotcha.
be happy with anything at this point.
And
Anything.
Don did mention that he wants to understand what does exist that could fit the needs of the district managers, community board management. But it's this feedback of what is it that you deal with that would, and what is the expectation, right? Like the generating letters, the opportunity to have access to it outside of the office while you're walking the district. These are elements.
Workflow notes, what we call workflow notes. And
We have questions down the road. Rob, and then
Carmen, go ahead.
Carmen, please.
Hi, I'm Carmen from Community. One of the things that I have brought up to Diana before was the intraquorum that is used by the mayor's office. And I know when I was at the controller's office, they managed to dump our internal database into intraquorum, duplicating the fields from the internal database that we have.
Okay.
And that, I'm sure you know about intraquorum because I think you guys created it for the mayor, right? Because it's a case management where you can download documents, you can track, if the other, I think the agency is able to also download like responses to our letters. So everything is managed in a system versus sending us an actual letter. So I can go in there once I refer something to DOB and look at the, there's like a tickler that tells you when you get the response. Mm-hmm. So you can look it up. So you have the history of every case, and we also use it, of course, because of the auditing to see what agency get the most complaints, what sort of complaints and things like that. Would that be appropriate of that kind of something on the?
I'm not that familiar with that technology, but I can bring it back to our tech experts.
And again, it's another example of what exists in the city of New York that is the utilization of it and what is generated would go a long way for the district managers, right?
Yeah.
So everyone's coming from a different angle, but it's the culmination of all of this that we want to understand where can do it create or access to implement that particular software application so that we're better serving our constituency.
Yeah, and the feedback is very helpful. I think when we spoke with you, what we focused on was the budget aspect, more so than the case management aspect. So let me bring this feedback to Don and his team, and they're the experts of what's out there and what they can build and what they're capable of.
And Stacey, just to give you an idea, right? A lot of the complaints generated can feed the budgetary needs.
That's right.
And so
Yeah.
that's why it's a
That's
budgetary
exactly right.
conversation, not only a constituent complaint management
Absolutely,
relations
yeah.
conversation. So, you know, I don't want there to be one or the other. It's both
Right.
are interrelated.
I gotcha. Okay.
So Sean mentioned the variation between the data that her district office collects and the 311 data. And it's something that Sean and I have talked about a number of times. And my hypothesis is that constituents report different things to different people based on who they have relationships with, but also the types of complaints. If you, you know, there was a time when community boards took any number of pothole and tree limb complaints. There's no reason to ever call the community board for something like that. But if you're calling the community board about something that has a multi-agency aspect to it, has a greater level of complexity than the scripts that the 311 operators are working from, then it makes much more sense to talk to someone in a district office that knows the district, may have some institutional memory about that location, that problem, similar problems, and none of that data is then reflected in open data or really any place outside of that individual district office. So I'm glad to hear Barry, you know, Barry's been talking about CouncilStat for a while, and I was happy to hear you finally say, I'm not wedded to CouncilStat per se, because, you know, I remember any number of council members who, when I was a relatively new district manager and said, how do we do this? Council members told me, oh my God, I don't even use that thing, it's insane. So yes, some tool would be helpful, and if it is universally made available, then the data is consistent, and then that data is then potentially a data set that can be made available through.
Yeah, and actually, the council's data from CouncilStat is a data set on the open data portal.
But none of ours are. I mean,
Right,
we
right.
have a spreadsheet. Sean has a spreadsheet. Fields are probably not the same. Some fields obviously will be. So, you know, one advantage of having a universal tool is that the data then is consistent and is uploadable.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because we're getting complaints that, you know, Mayor's Office of Operations, any number of people are not able to search because it's not searchable outside of our offices.
Right.
Right. And I just want to really echo a lot of what I wanted to say has been said already, is that we each have a different system that we utilize internally to track constituent-based services. And while open data is a tool, I think it's beneficial sometimes the data that we create that spans across agencies that is not available on open data. I give this example, and we've even asked commissioners, when you have a street-related complaint, a depression, that a corrective action report is issued to an outside agency, whether it's Department of Environmental Protection or National Grid or Con Edison. On open data, that complaint is closed. And oftentimes it takes us months, sometimes years, to correct that street condition. And tracking that becomes so important. And I think having a tracking mechanism, having something that we can all be able to know what's happening in our offices, to be able to track complaints that span across multi-agencies, to have that, because right now, I got to tell you, we use an Excel spreadsheet and we have a hard book because we're not linked into each other. So we actually have a book divided by agency. We're, you know, kind of like the old sheets, and we still do that. And I refer to that book all the time. When I look at my district needs for the year, I will pull on my Excel spreadsheet how many, and I will map, you know, how many street conditions. I'll make my paving list. I'll go out to those streets that are my top, you know, that have my top indicators. But it's so cumbersome. And so I think my plea from Board 10 is that technology has really hampered, I think, the effectiveness of my office. From frustrations from Microsoft Outlook Web to our website to, troubles we have with open data, I think we can be much better district managers because these tools will really help us do our jobs better. And that's just a pitch from me, from all of us. We've been talking about this for a while, and I think it really is so important. And if you could relay that, that would mean a lot to us. And thank you for doing this today. Thank you.
Joseph, Marnie, did you want to say anything? You had, yes, the last is next.
Hi, everyone. So I do want to say this is going to be month 4 for me as a district manager, and I do come from the city council, and so this is my period of shock where, I'm trying to navigate everything for the first time, and without having a database to really track these complaints, I find myself often having to pause everything else that I'm working on to really dig through and figure out what's going on. And these are conversations that I have to have with the staff as well. So I have plenty of paperwork that I can go through, but it would take me hours in a day just to find one document from one year, when if I had a system, I could just type in a keyword and it would be there. And so I know that this is the form in which we are expressing the need for it, but I would have to, wholeheartedly agree that this is something that we should have to improve, our service to our communities and really improve the service to the city in general.
Gotcha. Yeah. Thanks for the feedback, everyone.
Can I just make a suggestion, please? I would suggest that we create a working group of district managers who are willing to participate to work with DoIT on going ahead, moving ahead, designing this program, whatever they come up with.
This is the working group. I don't want a select few.
Right.
I want everyone participating so that when we agree on what it is with DoIT, that DoIT will present, and we tweak along the way. I have a lot of confidence in DoIT coming back to us. I just need a timeline. Stacey, if you could tell me when Dom is available to come back to present what he's come up with, right? This is the research that he's done. This is what makes most sense. These are the 3 choices. Right? Like, I need a timeline. In 2 months, we're going to get back together to come back to the table to then have it presented to everyone here so we could discuss what were those options, right?
Sure.
Because that will help us, right? But I don't want another working group, and you guys have a lot of work ahead of you before September, because in September you have the borough consultations. You have what would be the October borough, yes. Say it again? Yeah, like the new start of discussions for the new fiscal year 19, right? And so I don't want this working group to be left to the wayside, and then we come back and we're having the same conversation over again. Because I remember year 1 at Borough Hall, this was the first conversation I had with you all, and I want to make sure that we close the loop on this 4 years later. So I appreciate the suggestion. This is the working group. I think you've started that already. It's just a matter of working together with DoIT. All right? So it's 11:19. We've been joined by Denise Felipe Adams, who's a new employee at Borough Hall. Just wanted to make sure that everybody knew who she was. And I want to really thank Stacy.
Before we close out, can we go to the email?
To what email?
The .gov email we're all having problems with, and DoIT said that the last time that they're working on giving us Outlook.
Okay, let me, can I follow up with you on that? I wasn't prepared today to speak about that, but,
So we're going to have September, we're going to have an all-agency meeting in September. Can you be one of the presenters on that particular topic?
Outlook?
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you.
That would be very helpful.
I spoke to Joe Coluccio about the .gov email because it's really a problem. And he suggested that we all also open a ticket.
Tickets, yes.
Okay, that's good. I just opened mine yesterday because
Has everyone opened a ticket?
I hit the wall.
How many opened a ticket?
I don't use it.
You should open a ticket anyway. Just saying that. Okay, so for the month of September, because it's an agency, all agency meeting, we will have Do It report back on that particular issue as one of the presenters. And then in addition to that, just setting an agenda for that month. I just don't want to keep Do It here for the next 10 minutes if we could talk about the agenda for the month of September. So I just wanted to thank Albert and Stacy for being here, to be able to and I just wanted to applaud their presentation, their collaboration, because we can't do this work without them. And we look forward to September and the in-between conversations during the summer.
I'll follow up with you.
I appreciate
definitely much sooner than that.
I appreciate that. And so, you know, just while they collect their belongings, I just wanted to express in the next proposed agenda for the next meeting in September, because we break for the summer, right? That's correct? Unless you want to come back.
I'll come back. Do It has an update, I'll come back.
We have utilities company as part of agenda number 1, and DOT presentations is agenda number 2. Obviously, Do It will come back, so we're gonna make sure on the web email matter. Who knows, maybe the agencies will complain as well. So Do It webmail matter, utilities company, and DOT presentations are the 3 on the agenda that we had that came from what would be feedback from you as district managers. Do we agree? Yes? Is there any old business announcements that everyone has?
I have a quick announcement.
Please.
Next Wednesday, June 21st, 6 to 9, is the CB14 reception, and everybody is welcome to come and join us. It's fun. Cocktails will be served. Yes, I will write you a note. Dear board members. Wednesday the 21st, 6 to 9, and then there's an after party at the Greenwood Beer Garden.
And that's the month of June.
That's June 21st. That's a week from tomorrow.
Greenwood Park?
Yeah.
Down the block. I'm having a meeting at the cemetery.
Okay. Perfect. You'll be there.
Eddie?
I have an announcement. We have the Mermaid Parade this Saturday. So if anybody is interested in coming to the Mermaid Parade, we have a great view of the parade from the third floor. Carmen's coming. And we're getting it catered too, because we're calling it an open house for the community board.
Nice.
So,
beautiful. And the day?
It's this Saturday, and it's from 12 to 4. So if you're in the area, it's 17.
The 17th of June.
Yes.
From
community board office from 12 to 4.
12 to 4.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
The meeting point is the community board office.
Yes, it's community board office.
On Sunday, June 25th, Sheepshead Bay has its summer stroll. I think it's the 4th one we've had. And that's from 12 to 5. So come on down and check out Sheepshead Bay.
And say the date again and time?
Sunday, June 25th from 12 to 5.
Excellent.
Yes. Saturday, June 24th. We're going to be very busy this month. CB Tennis partnered with the Bay Ridge Center, and we're going to be hosting a senior tech event for seniors in the district to help them become more tech savvy. It's kind of a request we get all the time, so we're going to have different sponsors, and it's going to be at Our Lady of Angels from 12 to 5. And we're going to have a bunch of instructional classes for seniors to help them bridge the technology gap.
And that's going to be June 20?
June 24th, a Saturday, 12 to 5.
Yes. Can you give her the mic, please?
June 16th at 6 p.m., CB17, summer concert in the park at Predicate Park. That's it.
June 16th at
6 p.m.
6 p.m. There will be
summer concert.
a summer concert. That's the piece I didn't hear very well. Summer concert. Excellent.
At Predicate Park.
At Predicate Park. Beautiful. Anyone else as far as announcement? Barry?
June 22nd, Community Bureau 12, in anticipation of the summer driving season, will have a license check event. Come check your license to see if it's suspended. Don't get arrested on the road. So June 22nd, 6 to 8 at Community Board 1259, 10 13th Avenue. You can also submit your license number to us. We will have NYPD check it and let you know if your license is okay.
Beautiful. And when you, all these announcements for the month of June, are they on Borough President's website by any chance? The community calendar? Have they been submitted? Just to give, have you ever used it?
Yes.
Yes? You're more than welcome to use that particular event. And you can do it yourself, or you just enter it into the website once you're on the website portal. And so, and if you are interested in just sending it to our office, and we'll have it through our technology department, the website manager place it what would be on our website. So we just want to make sure that we're supporting, marketing your events, and vice versa.
I have a question.
Carmen.
How many of you advertise your meetings on Link NYC? How does that work?
NYC Link.
Uh-huh.
It's brand new.
We just started doing it, so I just wanted to see if there's a, increased participation, or is there any outcome out of putting it?
We don't have a link in our district.
Oh, not yet?
Yeah, we don't
Right,
have
it
it.
just started. Yeah. Have you had the advertisement?
No, we started.
You
putting it
started?
last month, so I just
Fantastic.
wanted to know if other
Beautiful.
people have done it.
No, because it just started to roll out, right? So you're the first. Let us know the feedback on whether or not it's working to your favor. Beautiful. Can you ask that?
Okay. Hello, everyone. Did everyone here receive the last email that was sent? And I was sent by Yamilki Crisostomos, and I was also CC'd on that. The last email where basically said today's meeting was relocated here.
Yes, I
Everyone
got
did
that, yeah.
Okay, I was the one who made the follow-up call to make sure that everyone was here.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, so with that being said, one thing, may I suggest something?
Yeah.
For all these June and July and August events, if you can kindly just send them to that email blast, because there's going to be new protocol for this summer. There was a prime meeting to this, where we would have to look at these flyers. They will have to be reviewed. So we would love for everyone to circulate this information so everyone can come out and make sure that there's staff out there. But we will also, the only way that we can really speed up the process would be if somebody internally would get this and put it in front of communications. Okay? If you can kindly just send it there, or feel free to send me an email, dfadams at Brooklyn BP, typical Brooklyn BP. Yeah, etc. Thank you.
Thank you. So I just want to wish everyone a safe, wonderful summer. Thank you very much. I hope these 6 months have been productive. Everyone has access to Schedule C. Does everybody have Schedule C? Schedule C is the expense budget that will be adopted. OMB has already sent it out. Do you guys have that?
Yes.
You do?
Yeah.
Because I don't see everyone saying yes.
Yes, I have it.
Okay.
I don't
You
think
haven't
they call it Schedule C.
Yeah,
They don't
call something, yeah.
This terminology. It just,
Terminology.
and obviously, making sure that we are proactive with what is the next couple of months leading up to borough consultations. Is everything working well with borough consultations? I know that our office will be hosting you with OMB. We're going to have our policy unit taking down notes. The opportunity for any hiccups along the way between now and then, please let us know, considering we're not going to be meeting during the summer. I just don't want any surprises come September that nothing got done. That would be disastrous. Yes.
If, and this really is an if we do want to get together as district managers to talk about our budget agendas before formally submitting them, we can have space here?
Yes,
Okay.
absolutely. Just let me know.
Okay.
Just let me know.
So if that does arise.
Mm-hmm.
Sean, they don't have a bar.
I'll go join you.
No, this is Plan B. Plan B. If we can't find
They're
a
gonna
spot
bring
in
in
the bar.
AA next, no more Weight Watchers.
God bless you all. Thank you very much for all your work. I appreciate it.
Have a good summer.